Uh-huh.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Keith here at Sports Vibes TV, and it is a Football Monday, joined by our friend and member of the Sports Vibes TV family, Stephen Fox. Foxy, man, how's everything with you?
I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well. Salute to the chat, the SV Nation. I hope everyone's well and can't wait to talk about some football. Unfortunately, not in the greatest. I wish it was more positive, but we're gonna let it rip.
Yeah, we're gonna leave some of the positive talk towards the end because we definitely will touch on Knicks Media Day. But I want to
Yeah,
focus.
Knicks.
So we will have some positive content towards the end. But Foxy, I want to focus on this on the teams we have right now playing football for New York City, for New York. Technically, they play over in Jersey, but it has not been looking good for us. We're going to start with the Giants. Giants are now 0-3, Foxy. They're 0-3. We went out and we lost against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons was a game that I thought the Knicks, too much basketball talk. I thought the Giants were going to go in there and have a legitimate shot of exiting 1-2. So for us to go out there and kind of lay an egg and not dominate a team that has a terrible defense, I think it's just a missed opportunity. And it's the last game I see where we can really kind of turn things around. So, Foxy, what did you see out there for the Giants in that game against the Falcons?
Same thing that you said. The positives is DJ hasn't thrown an interception or a turnover like for 3 games now. He was 24 for 35, 266 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Did fumble a couple of times and they recovered it. And the offensive line, it's shocking that they played well. It's a patchwork line with Billy Price now at center and Brenderson at the guard position. But then from there, it goes down in the red zone, like you said. This team, 7 field goals over the last 2 games. They can't punch it into the end zone. And that's the mark of a good team, or in our case, the mark of a bad team. We have a great kicker, thank God. I think he's up to 37 in a row, something like that. But it's it's really, really difficult for a team. There in the first half, they had 2 drives in the red zone. Bretterson had that penalty that was a killer. Grady Jarrett just ran over him. It wasn't a penalty. Forgive me. Grady Jarrett ran over him and sacked Jones. So they had that, and then the snap mishap between Price on another possession, Price and DJ. So you can't lose those opportunities, and it's just killing us. And then on top of that, DJ loses his favorite receiver, Sterling Shepard, to a hammy, and then Slayton to a hammy, and Evan Ingram had his perfunctory fumble. This guy, I don't know, he just, what the hell, he just drives me crazy. This guy actually had 2 drops, but one drop was the fumble that was a killer, so, and the defense also played well enough to win, but 2 weeks in a row, they give up fourth quarter comeback drives that they can't stop. So, I'm looking for the positive with DJ, but there's so many other things that are happening that are just, it's hard to see any light coming through because the line is so thin. If there's another injury, I can't imagine. And the pass rush, it seems like Ojulari has a sack. He has a sack in the first 3 games of his career, but it seems like it's always in the first quarter. And it seems that's really the only tackle he has the rest of the game. Yeah, I think he had 1 tackle other than the sack yesterday. So it's all those things that are really compounding.
Yeah, the defense has really shocked me. I thought that was something we could bank on coming into this season. So to see our defense crumble in clutch moments at the end of the game, I think that's brutal. We were at least able to go in. Saquon Barkley was able to put us up with a touchdown. Daniel Jones was able to sacrifice his body on a 2-point conversion. And again, we saw the defense just completely wet the bed. They were solid for the first half. But in the second half, we saw that towards the end of the game, the Falcons were able to move freely. There was no resistance from us. And I think if you look at one of the big acquisitions, Adoree Jackson, he had an interception pretty much in his hand that would have probably sealed
Not
the
pretty
game.
much, it was in his hands.
Yeah, and this is the second Giants that, because they dropped the pass, that we've lost the game. The last time it was a Darius Slayton that ended up dropping a pass, causing us to lose the game. And this time it's somebody on the defense. So to see this defense where we invested big bucks, we paid big money for Leonard. He had a sack in the game, so he's doing his job. But we're not seeing much from Dexter Lawrence. And I think that with the way that this defense has underwhelmed, who are we looking to help get this team back on track? Because if it's not going to be the defense where we invested big money, and if it's not going to be the offense where we're bewildered with injuries, all our receivers are pulling up with bad hammies, and we're not using Kadarius Toney with any bit of effectiveness. So it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like you said. I'm not seeing who this team can kind of rally behind outside of Daniel Jones. And then Daniel Jones doesn't really have that rah-rah personality, I think, that's going to really, galvanize the troops. So Foxy, what do the Giants have to do in order to turn this ship around? What adjustments do you see us making? Are there any adjustments we can make on the fly in order to right the ship?
I don't know. Starting off what you just touched on, the defense, we lost Blake Martinez. He's our tackling machine. So who's going to replace our tackling machine? That's a huge loss for us. No one's coming up big. Like you said, Jackson, a little over 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and in the end zone, that pretty much they could have, used up. Maybe if we didn't score, have a minute left because of possession, using up the clock, forced them to use all their timeouts. But Logan Ryan had a dropped interception. Logan Ryan had a huge penalty in the end zone. He had a terrible game. I mean, a terrible game. Lorenzo Carter, 1 tackle. It's just out of control. These guys that, like you said, we paid big money, and we're not seeing anything. James Bradbury had 1 tackle. And we came into the season saying, Giants, cornerbacks, the secondary is top notch. They're soft. We said the same thing last week, and now we're saying the same thing. Ridley, he's a really good receiver. That kid, beautiful, explodes into his breaks. But he looked like anytime he wanted the ball, he had 8 receptions yesterday, and anytime that he wanted, Cordell Patterson. And again, the missed tackles. At the end, he had a 15-yard run that the safety missed the tackle and allowed them to get into field goal position. So missed tackles, penalties. Ladies and gentlemen, the penalties are killing this team. Like I said, Logan Ryan a few seconds ago, and what you were talking about, Barkley, they have to start using him in a different way because of that offensive line. It may be just too much congestion for him to get into hold. He had 16 rushes for 51 yards yesterday, but he had 15 yards on his longest run for the yard. So basically, he was 15 for 36. Otherwise, 15 yards for 36 yards for 2.4 average was terrible. But the thing that I think they should do is that, line him up outside. He had 6 receptions yesterday. Get him out, either throw more short screens to him, line him up wide, give him some room, give the kid some space to get his confidence back to plant that leg and everything. But running into stacked defenses, with the stacked box defenses and stuff like that. And like I said, mentioned to you off screen and yesterday, is that he gets the ball and he hits the hole and he dances. And it's like, that gives them recovery time, that hesitation. It's like explode. He was worst in the league the first week in the season in one of the metrics on one of the statistics is north-south. And he's running, east-west. He has to pop that hole, and even if there's no hit that hole, stop this hesitation or get the guy out in space. And like I said, get him in the passing game. It'll just make him that much better. So 6 reception, 43 yards yesterday, and build on that, from a positives. But there's no tight end in their game, and the weird part is Daniel Jones has 2.79 seconds time to throw the ball versus 2.76 for last year. So he has the time. He's almost throwing at 70% completion, but they just die from the 20-yard line in that red zone. It's like they just can't, do anything to turn this around. And like you said, Joe Judge, Garrett, the conservative, like you touched on Tony. He got, all this stuff. He made a comment that, come to Jesus moment before this week in a press conference that because of a cryptic tweet that everything's cool. I got my head into it. So good. What do? They give the kid 2 catches, 16 yards, like an early possession, not another touch, not a touch in the second half. Like, come on, you have 2 guys down with hammies. I don't understand why you don't give the kid an opportunity, especially throw long. One of my biggest issues is Daniel Jones keeps checking down. He won't throw the ball long. And, give the kid Tony, throw it out there. And like I said, great quarterbacks throw the ball. It's either a reception or an incomplete. He throws the ball where it can't get intercepted. Let the kid fly. Give them the opportunity. But, oh boy.
Well, I think one positive I can probably look at or try to take away from the game or this season so far is Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas.
Absolutely.
Coming into this season, he was a big question mark, but as we start to see him develop, in this year too, he's actually becoming a
dominant
dominant force out there on the left side, and he's a player we can start to rely on if we're going to move forward and try to build out the rest of this offensive line. Because, like you said, right now it's in shambles. We've got Solder over on the right side, and he has been great.
Yeah, I know.
Pert was another 3rd-round pick that we brought in, and hope we can get some use out of him, and he still has not been able to crack the start and become one of the starters on the offensive line. So I think Thomas is something, or is a good takeaway that we can at least look to or try to track throughout this season. Same thing with Daniel Jones. He has not been given the most time, but during the time that he's been back there, he's made some decent decisions. And also with him using his feet, I like that as we start to use him a little bit more, he just has to slide some. He did have a nice slide yesterday. But,
yeah. Thank you. Please slide. Don't you got away with bulldozing Grady Jarrett yesterday for that 2-point conversion. He won yesterday, but you can't take on linemen like that too often without losing. Please slide, like you said. But he could run. He's a horse, man. He's a big guy. Slide. Yeah, he has a lot of aspects to his game, but he's still locking in on his first read again. He's not going through his progressions. He's locking in. And like I said, he's checking down, throwing under instead of letting it rip, man. And too conservative of an offensive game plan. It's just aggravating, man. Keep them honest, go long and make them think about it. But they're like, nah, not doing that at all.
Yeah. So Fox, I think the elephant in the room now is, where do we go from here? At 0-3, it's highly unlikely we'll be able to get into the playoffs. I mean, there's no real statistics for a 17-game season, but we know in 16-game seasons it's extremely difficult. So
one time,
yeah. So where do you see us going with Gettleman, and what is the next general manager going to have to do in order to kind of fix this roster we have on this team that's clearly flawed based on the 0-3 record?
Well, they have to clean house. I don't want to, be so, not have any, be sympathetic to somebody's livelihood, but they're not doing it. Gettleman came in here and talked about the offensive line. And like you said, Thomas is the one bright spot, but where are the other guys? Solder wasn't a good pickup at all. He was a system player up in Pats, but once he left that system, he didn't live up to that contract. That's for sure. So that, and so we need somebody, you heard me talk about Eric Bieniemy, the offensive line, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'd love him to be our head coach. But Patrick Graham had a better game yesterday, although they had that 4th quarter comeback. But like I said, they could have won that game yesterday. The defense played well enough to win. But where do we go from here? I just don't see. It's very easy, folks. We can go 0-8. 0-9, because the next 5 games, it's that we're going against tough teams, and this is going to spiral out of control. And I just don't know whether Judge has the locker room either. So whether everyone's going to start getting really depressed and, as injuries and pile up. And like you said, besides Thomas, the only other bright spot's the kicker. So we have seriously, 37 in a row is a spectacular, but this is the NFL. You just kick field goals, it just drains a team because you take away those end zone opportunities. So next week, obviously they're going against the Saints. Saints beat the Pats 28-13. They're 2-1 on the year. Winston threw 2 touchdowns. He's having a renaissance, a resurrection, threw 2 touchdowns against Pats. Have one of the better secondaries in the NFL. They have the 4th rated defense, on points allowed, and they have the 14th rated offense for points scored. So we don't know how long Slayton and Shepard's going to be out. So that's going to impact. Shepard is his favorite receiver. So somebody's going to have to come up big over there. We said who's going to replace Martinez, like that. And this game can get out of reach really quickly with Alvin Kamara and Marquise Callaway, Deontay Harris, Taysom Hill. They could lay it on us quick. And if they do, I could see us folding, man, because we're not showing the heart that we like in our New York teams.
Yeah. So you mentioned Jameis Winston is the LASIK. He got his eyes fixed.
Yeah. That fixed and maybe his ego fixed, both. Yeah. That, sometimes it takes a guy and eats some humble pie to really see the game. And he always had the physical skills. It was just above the neck that caused him problems on sideline outbursts, temper tantrums, and stuff like that. But Vegas has the Giants as a 7.5 point underdog. So that's not a good omen. Vegas is in the business to make money. So they do their homework. They have the analytics like we do, even better. So it's going to be a tough game, but it's a must win. And we have to stop these penalties, these undisciplined games.
Drive-killing penalties too.
And being unprepared, the lack of, in-game changes and stuff like that. We have to show that we have world-class coaching and game plans and change of game plans after halftime and stuff like that. The great teams make adjustments, and we're just not seeing that. Like we said, the pass rush is pretty much invisible. And, any secondary, you give them any quarterback in this league too much time with a receiver, you're asking too much of the secondary without a pass rush.
And Foxy, you also mentioned those injuries for the game next week. These are hamstring injuries, and hamstring injuries tend to linger. Galladay was dealing with a hamstring injury in camp, and he didn't play the whole preseason, and it was iffy whether he'd play the first game. So it's definitely not it's not a definite that these guys are going to be ready against the Saints. So we would hope we would see more Tony against the Saints, but Garrett didn't really give us any indication that we would, because we really didn't see him much once our guys went down. So there's definitely going to have to be changes made in season if we're going to be more competitive. Do you think Jason Garrett might be on the chopping block soon?
Not might. He has to be. Just meaning pretty soon there's going to have to be a sacrificial lamb. So either it's Garrett. I don't know about whether they do Patrick Gann, but I think Garrett's going to be the most logical person to take out or judge. I don't think the players are responding to him at all. We talked off camera about his post-game press conference, Judge. I just don't like saying, there's positives to take out of the game. Hey, folks, we're fans, but we're also pretty good sports. Watch our sports. You tell me the positives you want to take away from that game. 2 games, you lose heartbreaking games in the last second. 2 games in a row to field goals that were winnable games, absolutely winnable games. Changes the whole mindset of a team. It makes them believe in themselves. There's, the injuries are piling up. And like you said earlier, God bless you, that Galladay's one hit away from going down with that hip that's hurting him. So, wow, the walking wounded is 3 games in. That's not a good thing for 14 games to go.
Yeah. Also, Big Tash, shout out to you. Salute. He's had a pretty funny comment. No, that's not the right one. He's saying, "What is wrong with Joe Judge using timeouts like it's the NBA?" He used the timeout to save 1.5 yards
I
right
know.
before halftime on a punt. I'm like, oh my gosh,
But it's
Judge.
game after game, throwing a flag in the first game when you can't do that. You lost the timeout. He keeps making these plays, calling timeouts where you're like, wait a minute, you just called your second timeout with a whole fourth quarter to
Way
go.
to go.
Are you crazy? And now at the end of the game, you have to run a different offense because you have one timeout and stuff like that. So he's not living up to his players. And I've heard this for years. If players look at themselves and say, I have to do what I have to do, but the coaches have to do what they have to do. But if they see the coaches not doing what they're doing, they're like, hey man, what the hell? What's going on here? The coach is not being held accountable, but you want to hold me accountable? So, and also rightly so, one of the most prettiest things I saw yesterday in an ugly game was the fans booing John Mara during
That's exactly where I was about to go. On Eli
the
Manning Day, they let this
Ring of
monstrosity
Honor
go.
jersey being inducted, and it's like the fans let him know, like, uh, it's been a decade since we've had a playoff berth, this team. And that's just way too long. That means there's a problem all the way up to the ownership, that you're not bringing in the right people to make the right drafts, the right free agents, the right development of your young players. There's major problems. There's not one problem to fix everything. There's major problems all over where you look.
Yeah, Shaft Diesel, shout out to you. He's saying, I remember some Giants were saying that Gettleman was a better GM than Jerry Reese. Can people start saying that Gettleman is the worst Giants GM in Super Bowl era? Yeah, I was not a fan of the
Hey, I
Gettleman
second the
hire.
motion. And if you're new to the channel,
Yeah.
do me a favor. Please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that like button and turn on that reminder notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the great content. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Gettleman is terrible. Just absolutely terrible.
Yeah. It's kind of weird looking at the Giants because it's almost like we're turning into a carbon copy of the Jets. We're not doing anything in synergy. We're moving on from GMs keeping the coach, then moving on from the coach keeping the GM, and it looks like we're going to continue that cycle because I can't guarantee, or I don't think the front office is leaning towards moving on from Joe Judge if they were to fire Gettleman. And to
If history
me,
repeats itself, yeah, and they
yep.
keep it in house too.
Yeah, they might if they bring in Kevin Abrams because that's a guy that's been in the organization for a while. If they want to keep everything status quo and just try to bring in a new, not even new because he's already been in there throughout the dysfunctional organizations. He's been there for the Reese era and he's been there for the Gettleman era. So, and I'm not even sure who the next rising star is in terms of being a GM candidate. And are they going to want to work with Joe Judge? You're going to already handicap the new person coming in. To me, it's not an ideal situation to be in. And it's also rough to have this cycle where we're moving on from head coaches every 2 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. And we're
It
not putting
is.
Daniel Jones in the best position to succeed and to prosper.
Yeah, that's poetry, man. Absolutely. Although, I like new blood. I thought I saw a really good GM prospect at halftime. His name is Eli Manning. So,
You think?
hey, quarterbacks look at the game. They have such smarts. You listen to Eli, you listen to his brother Peyton, who I'm sure would be a good consigliere to him. I'd have no problem with them. If John Elway could do it and others. I have no problem with them. Anything but Gettleman. I'll give Eli a chance. Just get Gettleman the hell out of here and let Eli know. Eli's a smart guy. Has all his experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is important. Some guys only have the good, or some guys only have the bad. So he's tasted both ends. So I think he'd be, he knows talent. Yeah, so I'd have no problem with Eli as a strange. I don't know if anybody thought about it, but I'd give Eli a chance. He's a home guy. Fans love him. I think they'd take to him.
They love him more than Mara right now, as we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
All right, Foxy. Let's transition to the other New York team, the little brother, as I like to call him.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I hope I'm not offending you as a Jets fan.
No, no, not at all. It's just really ugly football, and you wait all summer, and you like you wait all winter, and you mean at the end of the year and stuff like that. After this, here comes football. Come on, it'll be different. It's no different, man. Zach Wilson, you can't really blame the kid. He's running for his absolute life. 5 sacks yesterday. He was 19 for 35, 160, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, which means 7 in 3 games. He had 1 rush for 2 yards. He's been sacked 15 yards so far this season, sacked 15 times for 118 yards and losses. 55% completion. It's just one thing after another. The line is, I know we lost Mackay at the left tackle, but we're just god awful. Van Roten, and we're just a really bad team. We had on offense, besides being shut out, we had 162 net yards. 0. We didn't have a trip to the red zone. Do you believe that? That's like unbelievable. We rushed for 43 yards as a team. So one thing after the other. No red zone. We're rushing for 43 yards. This young kid, the drops. Corey Davis had a huge drop yesterday that could have maybe helped. So drops. The rookie Michael Carter had a drop. Ty Johnson had a drop. And the kid got to learn to get rid of the ball, man. He's holding that ball way too long, getting sacked. Throw it away. Live for another down. He's got to learn that. I think LaFleur is terrible. This offensive coordinator is not, I said this, started getting upset in the Pats game. Like, look at Mac Jones. Look at the offensive scheme that Belichick put in for him to be successful. And we got this kid being a gunslinger, throwing downfield for Corey. Oh, intercepted. He's going long for Corey. Oh, it's intercepted again. Come on, let him have let him have high percentage short throws. Be smart. He has good feet. He's very good throwing the ball on the move. Very accurate. Put in plays like that. It's just you're watching like they're not making in-game adjustments. And it's just getting worse every time. That they almost had a quarter more of time in the time of possession. And Teddy didn't have that big of a game actually. He didn't have any touchdown passes. He had a highly efficient game. Obviously, I think he went
19 for 25.
19 for 25. Thank you. So very, very efficient, but no TDs. But man, it's really, really bad, only to get worse. Different than we just said about the Giants, that we could blink very easily, folks, and see 0-8. Same thing goes here. Same thing goes here. It's very, very painful. I don't know why they're not playing Denzel Mims. He was a healthy scratch. No, he's a big guy. He had a catch for 46 yards, something like that, a couple of games. Only one time targeted, one reception, but they're not targeting him at all. Tight end doesn't seem, that they have that for a young quarterback, for any quarterback. Tight end's your best friend. So, wow. And also the coaching. Salah, he's showing his inexperience. All over the place. 8 penalties, 89 yards and losses. So lack of discipline on the team, and everything they're doing on that practice field is absolutely not translating to Sundays. So I don't know what he has to do, but they're hurting big time, this team, man.
Yeah, especially you're seeing what Zach is doing with the Jets, but have you seen what Donald is doing over there with the Panthers?
3-0, folks.
You think that might have been a mistake? Moving on?
Not might. I'm old school in the sense I like horses for quarterbacks. Sam Darnold's a horse. He's a big boy. Zach is a little thing. He's quick. No, I'm serious. He's petite in terms of quarterbacks, man. He looks like Joe Montana size, quick feet, excellent arm. He has elite arm talent, no doubt about that. But the NFL is a brutal game, folks. What we said with Daniel Jones, he has that size that that you can hell it. I don't know how many hits that Zach can take without him going ouch, ooch, ouch, ouch. So God forbid he goes down. There's nobody backing up. So wow. And we take on the Titans next week, and they've won 2 in a row. They beat the Colts. Tannehill, who we know from AFC East with Miami, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the season, 64, almost 65% completion rate. So, Derrick Henry's an animal.
Yeah,
he had
I
a
want to
bad
see them
before.
go out there and try to tackle him.
Yeah, he'll strong arm somebody, that's for sure. But Julio Jones has a new team, so we'll see. We'll see. One of their AJ Brown is going to probably be out with a hammy, which is I think affecting everybody in the league. It seems like wide receivers, but it's
They're
it's
not
going to
playing
be
as much to lead into the season, and then you're trying to ramp them up to full speed so quickly. That's why you're going to see a lot of these soft tissue injuries.
yeah. So obviously the Titans are almost an 8-point favorite over the Jets. So it's going to be a really really I think the Giants will have a be more enjoyable to see a Giants bad season. The Jets are almost unwatchable. That's how bad they are. I mean, it's like I got to change the channel after a while. I watched it because we're doing our sports reports, but I'm just like saying this is painful. This is bad football, really bad football. And like you said, the analogy between the Jets and Giants, whether going back to the Gase McCagan days and or now that Douglas, it's like, hey, you're gonna have to get on the hot seat. You had a little honeymoon and you had a waiver, not facing the fire, but come on, man. Now you got to start facing the fire. That the players, whether defense, offense, everything, it's just not coming together, and that's his responsibility. And I just didn't like the coaching choice either. Get
Yeah,
somebody
Gase
that's
was the
done it
scapegoat
before.
originally.
Pardon?
No, I was saying Gase was the scapegoat originally. Now the only common denominator is Douglas.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Yeah, you were saying about the coaching selection. You didn't think Salah was the right
I
pick?
want somebody who's done it before. Don't give me somebody that was an assistant and then has to learn to be a head coach. It's, time management, just everything. There's a lot a head coach does that everybody as an assistant coach, it takes them time we needed somebody that's experienced, bring somebody with more experience. And, all these guys, there's so many guys that come in and, I was on defense on the 49ers and we're going to hit them hard and low. And if they get up, we're going to hit them again. And it just gets real tiring, man. A big task at hand, the Connecticut Jets.
Yeah, kick them out of New York. They're technically not in New York. I think that's the funniest part. The only football team in New York does not bear the name of the state, the Buffalo Bills. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, I saw our brother JD. Shout out to JD. Foxy, what's the deal with Denzel Mims? I'm shocked that he's not playing. Do you agree with how he's being managed? I mentioned that JD. No, man, that's a head scratcher. That he has great size. Get him out there, man. Get him out there. And it seems like they're only fixed on Corey Davis. He was targeted 10 times yesterday, Davis, and he's like fixated with him. But Mims is a huge target, huge wingspan, but I don't know. He seems to be in the doghouse with this management. So real quick. And that is a Douglas pick.
Yeah.
So, which is
under
strange.
a different coaching regime, but I think the issue is they're asking Mims to do things that are different under Mike LaFleur as opposed to what he was doing or what he was projected to do or asked to do under Adam Gase. So I think that's the disconnect. But to not use him at all, I think is crazy. And they're using this malarkey excuse saying if you're gonna be the 4th or 5th wide receiver, you have to be able to contribute in special teams. But I think the question is, why is such a highly touted, wide receiver so low on the depth chart? Don't tell me he can't do special teams. He can't participate in special teams. Tell me why he can't be one of the first 3.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get
the issue.
Crowder's been out with her COVID and now with a groin injury. He's a sure-handed guy. We've missed him, in the slot. So hopefully the Jets and Zach, the kid, will get him back. I'd like to see Zach. I like all of them to succeed, but you have to put in a scheme that allows them to succeed. And wow, no different than the Giants. You just look at it on paper and you're like, we're not only getting beat on the field, we're getting beat on the sidelines. We're being outcoached. We're not prepared. We saw it, the Giants, Denver, Pat Schumer, the teams are just toying with us, ripping us to shreds, and we don't have any answers. And it's really depressing as a fan that you're just saying, come on, make some adjustments here. You're blitzing too much. They're picking that up, or, throw more, like I said, get Saquon out wide, give him some room to show that speed and stuff.
Yeah. So Foxy, before I have to scurry off to work, let's pivot and talk about the Knicks.
Beautiful.
And this show off on a positive note. So
now you're talking.
Yeah, right. Put some smiles on people's faces. We finally got to hear from the new look, New York. The new look. It's hard to say New York and new look at the same time. The new look, New York Knicks. We finally got the press conference to start media day, and what I liked is we saw Derrick Rose kind of nip the whole training camp battle in the bud. He must have watched our live stream, Foxy.
Yeah, no.
We popped up on Derrick Rose's feed.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Don't you love I just love how he handles himself. But yeah, D Rose. First of all, Kemba saying that D Rose was a big reason why he came here. So those guys, it's a love fest between those two guys, which I really, 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 really like. So him talking about that. RJ talking about he's up for the challenge of taking on the top defenders. Both RJ and Julius talking about it's about improving every day. That mindset, which is right out of Tibbs. Fournier talking about how he's happy to, really, really be here. So, it was, they're always going to talk at media day, the perfunctory stuff. But like you said, after what we went through yesterday, folks, on Sunday with these football teams, training camp can't open up quick enough for us. We can't wait for these guys to really get into it. And, here comes our New York Knicks, who's going to put a big smile on our faces.
Yeah, to hear RJ Barrett talking about stepping up and being the primary defender, I think that's good, because that's something most of the channels here on YouTube have been discussing. Who is going to be that lockdown defender? Who is Tom Thibodeau going to say, hey, you go out there and lock up the best perimeter threat? And if RJ already understands that's going to be his job, that's going to be his task, I imagine he's going to be behind the scene working on his defense and making sure he'll be able to step up to the plate and handle that. And once we have that area, once we can check that box off, once we can say, all right, we have our wing defender, then we can start to look at our defense and say, how are we going to do our rotations? Who's going to move where? And that's going to be very important, especially when you're including two new pieces out there that's going to have to communicate and find the right man when they're forced to rotate. And that's going to be Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. And we already know that that defense isn't really their strength. So if we can take RJ, put him in a position where he can, be that primary defender, and then let everybody else, yeah, exactly, and let everybody operate off of him, I think that'll make integrating those two a lot easier, especially defensively, because I think that's going to be the biggest issue heading into the season, the biggest question mark. How are we going to look out there defensively?
Yeah, I loved RJ, man. You could just see in his eyes that he's really up for this challenge. He wasn't just, throwing words out there. Hey, can his voice get any lower? It's like every year his voice is getting lower. I'm like, sing Boys to Men for me or something, man. But he's a stud, man, and I think he's up for the challenge. And I know he's going to do it on offense, but him taking this on defense, that's the mark of a guy who wants to be great. Great players play both sides of the ball. Other guy, well, otherwise you're a great scorer. You're not a great player because you're not playing defense. So he wants to do it all.
Well, in this NBA, you can play one side of the ball and get pretty far.
Pretty far and pretty rich.
Yeah. MPJ just got 207.
I know. And you know what? Yeah. I have to raise my hand. I'm guilty because, again, old school, I would never sign or draft somebody with a back problem. because what we were talking about hammies, it's a chronic injury. I've never really seen somebody whose back problem hasn't, come back and aggravated and give somebody, so if his back healed beautifully, he's a serious, he's an offensive threat. He's still a defensive nightmare. He got killed a couple of years ago. He's not the best defensive player. He gets killed on pick and rolls and stuff like that. But he has such an offensive game, prototype size. Yeah, in retrospect, he'd be crazy. He'd be everything the Knicks would love.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential, but that back injury.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
not sure to invest that much money. If you want to invest a little bit, that way, you want to make him happy, make him feel whole. But a max contract,
Word.
has he? I mean, he's a talented player, but I don't know if I'd be willing to lock him up for a max deal.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah. Let's see. Salute. To hear Flynn is saying we have the youth, the energy should be there on defense. We have the youth in the second unit. I start and cast.
Yeah.
We added some seasoned veterans in Kimba and Fournier. We got older in the starting unit. Well, did we? How old is Elf? Kimba's a year older than me. Fournier, I think, is a year younger.
Yeah, I think it's about.
I think we got a little older.
Yeah, or just about the same with Bullock. Bullock and Fournier, and like you said, Kemba. So we're in that same ballpark. But but we got the kids on the second deck, and hopefully they'll rise up to the challenge if given that. Hey, quick shout out to CT, our friend from the streets are buzzing. If you haven't subscribed to CT's channel, please check it out. Puts in a lot of hard work, good content, good guy. Check him out, please.
Yeah, my guy M Toast Vids saying they need to bring up Jericho soon. He'll spend some time with the team, but I think, like we said, he'll spend most of his time in the G League.
Yeah, and like we were saying yesterday in last night's broadcast, that they'll ease Mitch into things. So Noel is going to be taking first team reps. Once Mitch gets ready, he'll come in, they'll ease him in, and we'll see. You have Taj here, and we talked about Randall playing, small ball 5. And Sims, hey, Sims, the good thing about Sims is you can't teach his athleticism, his ability, his versatility to switch. So it's up to him. If he shows Tibbs, that's all you need to do. Quickly show Tibbs he had it on the offensive side. If Sims shows Tibbs he has something on the defensive side, that's what we want to see, man. So this is what training camp's about. And folks, we got training camp after what we went through yesterday with these football teams. We got to hold on to our Knicks, and they're going to bring joy to our hearts.
Yeah, they're the only team in the city that's going to be doing that, because even the Nets, they got their own fiasco. Apparently, they got to head over to San Diego to have their training camp. They're not allowed to do it in the city, apparently.
Yeah, that.
I don't know if they're not allowed, but they got to go to San Diego for Kyrie reasons.
Kyrie reasons, exactly. And if he doesn't get vaxxed, I think that'll bring more drama if they're going to allow him to play and everything else. So where the Nets go, drama follows. So I'm not much for drama. So hopefully our team will remain drama free. And one of the things I loved about the media day today was the positivity of their comments. So let's keep it positive. But, they talked about the hard work, positive. I like that, man. I like that a whole lot.
Yeah, I told JD and George that the Nets, they're going to have to try and be an 8th seed. That way, at least they'll have Kyrie for 4 to 7 games in the playoffs.
I love that. That's gold. So,
all right, Foxy, let's wrap it up here. I got to run, head to work, and pay the bills.
I know.
So thank you, Foxy, for joining me, talking some football, and we got a little bit of Knicks content in. Thank you
pleasure.
to Big Taz, one of the mods, holding it down, supporting the channel. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Definitely appreciate it. Foxy, we'll be alive again talking Knicks Sunday, right?
Sunday night, everybody. It's a regular, so check us out. We love you, family. Check us out. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe. Please turn on that all notification bell, so you don't miss out on any of the great content from my brother Keys and Sports Vibe TV. And please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. And like you said, shout out to the best mods in the land. We really appreciate all you do.
All right. Once again, I'm Keith, host of Sports Vibes TV, and I'm out.
Love you.